Okay, we're going to look at some prerequisite skills that you will need to be successful in this course. So the first question that we have in our warm-up is to solve the following system of equations by elimination. So in elimination, we need to make sure that all our variables are lined up and our number part is lined up as well. And then we need to ensure that either the coefficients of x or the coefficients of y are the same in order to either add or subtract the equations to eliminate one of the variables. So I'm going to start by labeling my equations 1 and 2, and then I notice that neither one of the variables have the same coefficient. So the easiest thing I notice that I can do is I can either try to figure out what coefficient, what value would make the coefficients of x the same, and in this case I'd have to multiply both equations in order to get the coefficients the same. But if I look at the second variable, which is y, I'll notice that the coefficient here is just a 1, and I can just multiply the second equation by a number to make it the same as the coefficient of the first equation for y. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the first equation the way it is, and I'm going to take the second equation and I'm going to multiply it by 3 so that the coefficients are the same. So this is going to become 9x minus 3y equals negative 39. And now at this point I'll notice that the coefficients of y are the same, and now I can add the two equations since the signs are opposite, and adding the two equations will eliminate the variable. And so I'll get 11x equals negative 33, and then divide both sides by 11 to get x equals negative 3. So we got one of our variables, and remember that solving a system of equations means you have two linear equations in this case, and you're trying to find the point of intersection between them. So here's the x-coordinate of the point of intersection. I need to solve for the y-coordinate. So for the y-coordinate, what I'm going to do is substitute the x-coordinate that's here into either one of these equations. And I'll notice that the second equation, since it has a coefficient of negative 1, that would be easy because then I wouldn't have to do too much division to try to isolate the y. However, I do have a negative, so it will make it a little bit complicated. But the first equation has a 3 in front of the y. However, that 3 is positive, so maybe that equation is easier. You can use either one of the equations, doesn't matter which one, but we're going to substitute x into one of the equations to solve for y. So I'm going to sub x equals negative 3 into the first equation, and so I'll get 2 times negative 3 plus 3y equals 6. That's negative 6 plus 3y equals 6. If I add 6 to both sides, I get 3y equals 12, which means y will equal 4. Okay, so therefore, the solution to the system is the x-coordinate, then the y-coordinate, which is negative 3 and 4. Okay, so that's our warm-up. We're going to look at some things that you should know from grade 9 and some things you should know from grade 10 as well. So starting with things you should know from grade 9, here's a couple of equations that you should know. First of all, you should know the formula for the slope of a line, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You also might know the slope as rise over run, or as delta y over delta x. Okay, any one of these three equations work for the slope of a line. Okay, the equation of a line is also important. Typically when you're looking at slope-intercept form, it's written as y equals mx plus b. Okay, so let's look at some examples from grade 9 concepts. The first example looks at determining the slope of a line passing through 2 points. So we're going to use the slope formula to help us do that. And then the second example, we're finding the equation of a line with a slope given and a passing through a point. So for the examples that we're going to be looking at, I'm going to do it on a separate sheet of paper. So here's the first example. We're looking for the slope of a line passing through 2 points. So what I'll start by doing is writing the formula for slope. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And what I'll recognize is I have 2 points that are given, and so I'm going to label them as my first point and my second point, so x1, y1, and x2 and y2, and substitute those numbers into the slope formula to get 9 minus negative 3 over negative 1 minus 5. And And so what that'll give me is 9 minus negative 3 is 12, and negative 1 minus 5 is negative 6. And if you can reduce your slope further, please do. And so in this case, we get the slope is equal to negative 2. Okay, so that's all we had to do for the first one. Let's take a look at the second example. And we're asked to determine the equation of a line with a slope that's given and passing through a point. So remember that the equation of a line is y equals mx plus b. And so two pieces of information are needed. You need to know what the slope of the line is, and you need to know what the y-intercept of the line is. So in this case, we're already given the slope, and what we need to find is the y-intercept. So we have a slope that's given, so this part's given, that's good. And we're looking for the y-intercept. And this point here is probably going to help us find that y-intercept. Okay? So if I substitute in the information that I know, I have y equals 4 over 3x plus b. And then I can substitute in the x and y coordinate of the point to get 2 equals 4 over 3 is still there. I'm going to replace the x with negative 6 plus b, and then I can work through the problem from there. So I have 2 equals 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. Divide that by 3. Remember, the order of multiplication and division doesn't matter. So that's negative 24 divided by 3, which is negative 8. And then I can isolate b by adding 8 to both sides to get 10 is equal to b. So now I have the slope, or I was given the slope, and I solved for the y-intercept. And so if I go back to the slope y-intercept equation, I can substitute in the information that I know. So the slope is 4 over 3, and the y-intercept was 10. There's how you find the equation of a line, and that's the review of some grade 9 material.